Welcome to this explainer. You know, parenting is often described as a biological leap of faith. It's this incredible, overwhelming drive to shepherd a tiny human from infancy all the way to self-sufficient adulthood. But taking that leap absolutely does not mean we have to build the airplane while we're flying it. In fact, modern developmental science gives us a really solid, evidence-based blueprint for this stuff. And that is exactly what we're going to explore today. It's the million-dollar question, right? What is the actual secret to raising a confident, happy child? And it's a question that feels especially urgent right now. Recent data, like the Good Childhood Report, shows a pretty concerning decade-long decline in children's overall life satisfaction and happiness. So how do we counter this? Well, we do it by deliberately building an environment of resilience. Think of it like constructing a really sturdy house. Raising a child requires a structural plan, so consider this blueprint your personal antidote to the overwhelm. Here is the mental map for our build today. We'll start at the bottom with Step 1, the foundation. Then Step 2, the framework. Step 3 is the wiring. Step 4, the fuel. And finally, Step 5, the digital environment. All right, let's dive right in with Section 1, the foundation, brain architecture and relationships. The Harvard Center on the Developing Child highlights this absolutely foundational concept called serve and return. You can think of it like a biological game of ping pong. A child reaches out for interaction, maybe it's a babble, a coo, or, aggressively throwing a spoon from the high chair, and an adult responds with eye contact, a touch, or a word. It is literally the active ingredient that builds and strengthens the trillions of neural connections in a baby's brain. Without these responsive relationships, the brain's architecture is actually weakened. But with them, we lay a rock-solid base for all future cognitive and social skills. Moving right up to Section 2, the framework, parenting styles, and discipline. So Diana Baumrind mapped out 4 quadrants of parenting based on 2 key dimensions, warmth and control. You've got the authoritarian style, the rigid ruler, high control, low warmth. This often leads to obedient kids, sure, but usually with much higher anxiety. Then there's the permissive style. This is the classic fun parent trap. High warmth but low control, which pretty reliably leads to low self-control in the kids. Neglectful is just low on both. But the absolute sweet spot, that is authoritative parenting, often called the tender teacher approach. This style perfectly balances high expectations with high warmth. The research is completely clear on this. This framework consistently leads to high self-esteem, social competence, and real academic success. And a massive part of that authoritative framework boils down to one vital distinction: discipline versus punishment. The root of the word discipline is disciplina, which actually means to teach. It's instruction. Punishment, on the flip side, is retribution. Historically, it's intended to inflict pain or shame. Positive discipline focuses on logical consequences, not retribution. By keeping our focus on teaching rather than punishing, we can raise highly capable, resilient kids while keeping our relationships with them totally intact and respectful. Okay, on to Section 3, the wiring, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy. So we're wiring up the house now, and interestingly, research tells us that emotional intelligence, or EQ, is a much stronger predictor of lifelong success than IQ. To wire up that EQ, Dr. John Gottman provides a real game-changer of a tool called emotion coaching. Let's say your kid has a massive floor-kicking meltdown over a broken toy. First, you become aware of the emotion. Second, you view that meltdown as an opportunity to connect, not just a nuisance to squash. Third, you validate their experience with empathy. Fourth, you actually help them label that feeling. And fifth, you problem solve with limits, meaning you set boundaries on the behavior while helping them fix the underlying issue. It takes high-level psychology and makes it an immediate, actionable tool for your everyday life. Building directly on that, we have the CASCL 5 core competencies for social-emotional learning: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. The real light bulb moment here is this. When we use emotion coaching, we are actively teaching our kids that all feelings are okay, but all behaviors are not. That one simple, profound distinction allows children to master these 5 competencies so they can resolve conflict and make responsible choices.
Now, a perfectly wired house also has a steady humming flow of confidence, and that comes from self-efficacy. Psychologist Albert Bandura defines this as the belief in one's own ability to succeed and accomplish tasks. When children genuinely believe they can achieve their goals, they develop a true growth mindset. They start looking at setbacks as opportunities to learn rather than absolute failures, which makes them incredibly resilient to stress.
So how do you actually build this in the real world? Through what we call mastery experiences. You don't just solve their problems for them, you offer scaffolding. Give them a hint instead of the whole solution. Involve them in decisions, like picking between two acceptable outfits. Give them age-appropriate chores so they realize they are valued contributors to the family. And crucially, celebrate their effort and persistence, not just the successful end result. That is how you foster true independence.
All right, time for section 4, the fuel, nutrition, and sleep habits. The USDA MyPlate guidelines are all about prioritizing nutrient density. Half the plate should be fruits and veggies, and hey, a great pro tip is to experiment with textures until you find what they actually tolerate. A quarter of the plate is protein for brain and muscle development, paired with dairy for calcium. But take a close look at that added sugar guideline. Keep it under 25 grams, which is about 6 teaspoons a day. Why? Because high sugar is directly linked to mood volatility. I mean, anyone who has witnessed a post-birthday party sugar crash knows exactly what I'm talking about. By limiting added sugars, we're giving their developing brains steady, reliable fuel. But, all that good fuel is pretty much useless if the body can't recharge. The CDC and AAP recommend 9 to 12 hours of sleep for kids 6 to 12 and 8 to 10 hours for teens. The data heavily supports enforcing parent-set bedtimes and physically removing electronics from the bedroom to guarantee that actually get this rest. Combine a good night's sleep with 60 minutes of daily physical activity, and you literally have a biological antidote to anxiety and poor academic performance.
Which brings us to our final step, Section 5, the digital environment, managing screens and media.
Let's be real, we live in a completely digital ecosystem, and the American Academy of Pediatrics gets that. They've shifted away from strict arbitrary time limits and now recommend a digital wellness plan using the 5 C's. First, the child. Tailor your limits to your specific kid's maturity level. Second, content. Choose high-quality media. Third, calm. Try not to use devices as the primary way to soothe your child's emotions. Fourth, crowding out. Just make sure screens aren't replacing vital things like sleep or outdoor play. And fifth, communication. Talk to them regularly about what they're seeing online. It's an incredibly empowering, realistic way to handle the digital age.
So let's bring it all together. Strong biological foundations, warm but structured authoritative frameworks, sophisticated emotional wiring through EQ coaching, healthy nutritional fuel, and a safe digital environment. It's kind of amazing to realize that all these disparate scientific data points actually belong in the exact same toolkit. When you combine them, you construct the ultimate architecture for a resilient, confident, and happy kid. I want to anchor this whole explainer with a really beautiful quote from the Yale Child Study Center. The decision to parent is a leap of faith, fueled by a biological drive to shepherd a human to self-sufficient adulthood. It is a massive, lifelong undertaking. What we've looked at today is a toolkit for that journey, not a report card for perfection. It's simply about making evidence-based choices more often than not.
Which leaves us with one final, big question. How will you apply this blueprint to build resilience today? Are you going to try out emotion coaching the next time a tantrum hits? Or maybe set up a new screen-free bedtime routine tonight? Pick just one tool from this architecture and start building. That leap of faith is yours to take.